Okay, here we go.
Thanks for having us, Johnny. This is it's amazing.
All right, so welcome. We got a very special episode from JCR Speed Shop in San Clemente, California, and we are joined by the undisputed king of Baja, 11-time Baja 1000 winner, Johnny Campbell. Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks. It's a pleasure to be on your show, and I've gotten to know you a little bit here in the last couple weeks, and yeah, we're really excited to be sitting here with you. And we've had some other success with guys like yourself before, and racing Mexico and stuff. So yeah, let's get into this thing and see what we can pull out.
All right, that's perfect, because that leads right in to my first question. So you have dedicated a huge part of your life to off-road racing. You, again, obviously the most successful Baja racer of all time. And you hear this story of two guys at 40 years old who decide, we're going to go try to race the Baja. We're going to try to survive this. When you hear something like that, do you think guys just go out, grow mustaches, buy a Corvette, and drive around, let that be your midlife crisis, leave this to the professionals? Or what do you think when you hear something like that?
Well, it's interesting. It's I've been in this situation before with some other guys and stuff that have wanted to do this, and they're 40 plus, and it's like, we want to go race Baja. Maybe they saw like Dust to Glory or one of the videos and stuff, and it's something about it, and it's not everybody, but something about it like draws me to, like, you know what, these guys can use some advice. They can use some insight, some experience, mainly for safety. It's like there's probably nothing more dangerous than actually riding or racing your motorcycle in Baja. I mean, that's the honest truth. And so, but when I hear some guys like yourself say, hey, we want to go do this, and you're all fired up, and you're like, okay, let's pump the brakes a minute. There's a lot to it, and so I like to share my experience.
I feel like we're gonna have an intervention from everyone here who's raced the Baja. Like, you guys should stop right now. Pump the brakes. I actually glad to hear that. But yeah, it's awesome to talk to you. Obviously, your name is synonymous with Baja, right? 11-time winner, and you get the bike across every time you've gotten, every time you've raced, you've gotten the bike across, right? And your team's, I'm top of my head, I'm trying to remember.
Oh, have you had a DNF?
Yeah, sorry, there you go.
Yeah, we've DNF'd before. I'm trying to think, in the Baja 1000, we haven't had a DNF. I've DNF'd like the Baja 500 and stuff. We had a failure. That was early on in my career and stuff, and we were experimenting with a lot of horsepower, and just some things happened. But generally speaking, no, we've had a pretty good run. I think physically I've raced over 20 Baja 1000s, on a bike or in a four-wheel vehicle. So,
wow. So you have a multitude of times you've gone across the line.
Yep.
And we're just trying to get across the line once, maybe twice, depending how we do. How do you set yourself apart from it? Because it seems we hear about the Baja, and we hear how just getting through the race alone is a challenge, right? So how do you do this? How do you set yourself apart from other Baja racers by crossing the finish line over and over and over?
Yeah, you have to. In Baja, the one thing is to start like you guys are starting is a good way, because you're seeking advice. You're not just going, hey, we're going to race Baja tomorrow. You have a plan. At least you started with a plan and go, okay, 3 years to Baja. Now we've chipped off half a year, so you got to. But you're seeking advice from the right people, and I think that's a great start. Got myself and Tim Morton and Joe and, guys that have been riding racing down there for a long time. And so it's part of it is surrounding yourself with the right people. And I was fortunate enough to be surrounded or surround myself with, quality people that are going to instruct me the right way, level-headed, just this is how it is. Sometimes you didn't want to hear that, but this is, because when I started in Baja, it was different. It's like I was a teenager, and so I was just full of it, just piss and vinegar. I'm going to race. I want to be fast. I want to win. But that wasn't the right approach, in the beginning. But, I mean, you have to ride within your limits, So that's the important part. But also planning and preparation of what you guys are doing right now is very, very important.
Excellent.
Do you think we should take more time? Like, would you recommend another year? In my head, I'm like, maybe we should. I'm not saying I wanted to delay this time. We're going to do this still in 2.5 years. But is there a point you like maybe another extra year would be more sufficient for?
I think if you guys have ample experience time before you go do it, and I think some important things being that geographically, you guys are in the Rocky Mountains, so you're not in the desert and you're not riding the desert all the time. And so it's going to be important in the next year and a half to start riding, take some desert trips, go down to Mexico, and what you're going to do in another day or so with Tim Morton and his group. But go get that experience. Ride some desert races in the States before you go and cross the border and spend a bunch of money and risk, and it fails.
Yeah. And that's good. I think, that's one of the things we're hoping to question you on in a little bit is kind of our first desert race that we got coming up in October, and hoping to get some advice from you. But thinking back to when you were starting, I know you started, riding as a kid. At what point did you make that switch to where you're not just riding anymore, you're actually going out and doing some intentional practice? Like when did that switch where you were like, man, I want to do this for a living?
Yeah, for me, it was interesting. I have a story, of course, a lot of people know, but I started racing at an early age, so riding at 9, racing at 13. And then I got more involved. My dad had me more involved with racing up and through 16. But then my life had a big loop in it. My dad passed away when I was 16. Like suddenly, oh my gosh, it's like, now what do we do? And my mom, she saw the racing as an outlet for my brother and myself. And so she supported us. Like, we loved it and we had passion for it and we wanted to do it. And I knew when I was 16, like, I want to do this. In the point to where I was an avid skateboarder, an avid surfer. I was never really good at either one of them, but I liked to do it because you could do it all the time here in San Clemente. Right?
Yeah.
That was like the lifestyle, right? To ride dirt bikes here, it's like, man, you had to drive quite a ways to go do something and you don't have a bunch of money. Well, how do you get there? How do you keep your bike going? Whatever. But my mom saw it was our passion and a great outlet for us boys who just lost their father, who was everything to us. And so she supported us to go race and go ride. But at 16, to get back to the original question, that's when I really wanted to start racing. Little did I know at that point that I could actually, make a career out of it, which isn't very easy as an off-road racer. And so, fortunately, kind of like the path I was on, I was able to get in the right hands of a couple great mentors that really showed me the ropes and stuff along the way. One was my wife's uncle, Craig Adams, who's a San Clemente guy. He really helped my steps from like 16 to 18. And then after 18 is I got in the hands of Bruce Ogilvie, a Baja legend. And he was such a great mentor, teacher, race tactician. And he really took me from, I'd say, I was an expert level, but he took me to, the professional. And that's, so around 18, 19 was really like, okay, let's go.
It's awesome.
I get so nervous talking about just talk about the Baja alone.
I'm losing sleep already.
But that is good because that shows you have respect for it, and and you never even been there.
No,
but
you've been to the Baja once before.
Yeah, I have,
but not in your transit van.
Yeah, I did a camping trip down the Baja once. Yeah. It was awesome.
Okay. Yeah, so I think that you have respect for it. That's number one.
Yeah. I think that comes from the mountain mentality. Like as skiers, as mountain bikers, you kind of, like you're at the will of the mountain. So you have to respect Mother Nature and what it brings. So we've been hurt plenty of times doing other sports. And we look at the dangers of racing this, of riding this, even like the next 2 days, I'm like, just cross my fingers, nobody gets hurt. So we can keep riding all summer. But obviously the Baja is exponentially more dangerous than most races in the world. It seems like we keep hearing about the booby traps, just the banditos. I've heard a story you had about on another podcast. You talked about getting held up.
Yeah.
Is there anything, or what can you do to minimize risk factors? Being that we have careers as teachers, I'm just like
families and
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah, he's got Tom's got a family.
Well, it's like the adventure begins when you cross the border. I mean, as soon as you cross the border, anything can happen. And Mexico is the greatest place in the world. Like it's super fun, and you just have to respect the locals, respect the laws. You don't go out drinking and hooting and hollering, and a lot of that's what a lot of people do and get in trouble and whatever. You're asking for trouble, like that. It's like if you go and respect their culture and you respect the people, they're the friendliest people on the planet, and a lot of them are just out there surviving and stuff. And so you'll meet a slew of people that are just fans, and they just love the race culture and everything, because that's part of Baja, is that race culture. But to get back to that question, is like you have to respect it. You have to seek good guidance, and then you just go into it slowly. It's easy to go too fast down there.
We've heard 100 miles an hour or something.
Because the desert looks flat. It's not flat.
Yeah.
There's big holes. There's rocks you can't see because they're the same color as the sand.
Yeah.
Oof.
There's big spiky bushes everywhere, and so I think the most important thing is just to start. You have to get your toes wet first. And take it just step by step. And don't go down there and think you're going to light the world on fire, because you're not.
Yeah. Yep.
Definitely not.
You'll light yourself on fire.
Sure. When you're working with some of the athletes that you work with today, and if you were going to get some of these guys ready for Baja, and at this point we're looking at probably just a 2-man team. That's a lot of hours on a bike, especially at the pace that we're going to be riding it. What were you doing to get yourself ready for the Baja, and what are you doing with some of your athletes now?
The thing about racing in Baja is getting race experience before you even get there.
Yep.
So it's like there's physical fitness, of course. There's bicycle riding, there's cross training, there's all the stuff you do for other sports as well, right? So that's all good stuff. Gym time, mountain bike time, all the stuff you like to do anyway. You can just keep doing that. But really what it comes down to is making good decisions. And it comes down to mental. Like if you're going to be on the bike for a long time, and so what you're going to have to do is start working on, one, endurance, but two, how hard can you push and still maintain focus, because that seems to be the biggest thing, is that mental thing, because it's like, oh, this is just a dirt road, I can go fast, and all of a sudden you're off the corner down in the bushes in the canyon, Yeah. And so, and part of that comes with pre-running, and you're not just learning the road or the course, you're gauging your speed. You're going, what's comfortable for me? Because my comfort is going to be different than your comfort. And so you want to ride at the pace that you're comfortable with. And that's going to come with time. And seat time. So that's going to be the most important factor for you guys, is just to learn what's a comfortable pace. Because if you go 100% all the time, you're probably going to not succeed.
Yeah.
Baja, you ride 85, 90%. Okay, let's keep that, because you always got to keep that margin down there, because You never know what's around the next corner. Could be a cow, could be a car, could be a booby trap, could be something, So
I'm glad you said it was mental, because mental is definitely the thing I think gets most of, like us as well. The older we get, obviously we race bikes. I've been racing since I was 13, mountain bikes, and you started racing 30s with me.
Yeah, late 20s.
Yeah. So you think the older we get, the more of a mental game it seems.
It does seem
like for any sport, and especially this. I mean, even yesterday, Tom was like, "I'm getting nervous." I'm like, "You've never said that out loud about the Baja." Like, this is his idea.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to get the dirt bike, and he's like, "Well, why don't we go big?" And I'm like, I definitely was like, let's pump the brakes here. Yeah. So I kept thinking about your mentality, as you said 20 times you've done this race, right? 20.
I think about 20 Baja 1000s.
Do you remember your first time versus your last time, and the mentality you had from the start gate, or even in the middle of the race? Like what goes through your head, like the first race and your last race that you did?
Yeah, I mean, you gain, because like my first Baja 1000 I raced, I was like 19 years old, right? I was probably 19 or 20 years old. And then the last one on the bike, I was 38 years old, right? So there's a lot of experience through those years. And it's just like an endurance athlete who runs a marathon or an endurance bicycle race or something. It's like you learn your body, you learn the pace, you learn all that stuff. Where when you're young, you're working off of youthfullism and talent and stuff like that more than you are that experience. And so you make a mistake, you crash the bike, you break the bike, you break yourself, you think you could be as fast as those guys that are 30 years old, but you could go fast as those guys for a little bit, but then you're going to make a mistake where those guys their heart rate's low and they're just going through the motions. So, it's good. That's what's going to have to be is just seat time.
Do you wear a heart rate monitor? Sorry, just want to. No. Do you ever wear a heart rate monitor? I'm just curious.
I've tried it a few times, but I don't. Yeah. My kid does. He's avid at it. But in my day, we didn't have those things. They were just coming out, and we were just like, "What's this? It bugs me. Throw it away. Let's go right. Give me a taco and a Coca-Cola. Let's go."
That's how I want it to be, right there. Yeah. So I've done a couple races that had like an overnight element to them, not dirt bike races, but I've had times where I found myself just going to a real low point during a race and being like, man, what am I doing out here? I'd love to just be in my bed right now, things like that. Have you had moments like that out on the race course where you're just like, why am I still doing this?
I'd say in my career and where I was, no, I didn't have that. Because I there was a goal and I had to get to that goal. And so I think doing other tasks, I get that. It's like, sure. What am I doing? Why am I moving this? Why am I, but the race, I think I have such adrenaline and drive to get to that finish line that yes, there's points to where it's like, okay, everybody's tired and we've got to overcome this. And especially if you're not having the cleanest race or something, then it's like, you got to get yourself, back up. Let's be the cheerleader. Let's get going, kick yourself in the butt. And one thing that gets like that is the Dakar Rally, because the Dakar Rally, unlike the Baja, which is the longest continuous running race in the world, the Dakar is like stages, like a Tour de France, right? And
it goes for two weeks?
2 weeks.
Yeah.
But let's say you're 6 days in and everybody in the crew is, short on sleep, short fuse. And it's like, okay, let's remember why we're here, remember the goal. And so the Baja 1000, I think, in probably your guys' case, being rookies, it could be like that. It's going to be grueling. In the middle of the night, you're going to be asking you the questions like, oh my gosh, I got to get back on the bike and I got to run 40, 50 miles of whoop-de-doos to get to the bike to my partner. It's like, oh my gosh, so that's going to be long for you,
Yeah.
It's like as a pro going for the overall, it's like, that's like you go twice as fast as what you guys are going to do. So it's like,
right.
It's such a different mindset for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking that last night, middle of the night, just like if I fall over, I'm going to feel so defeated. So got to work on the resiliency factor.
Well, I think that last race we just did was probably good for you.
I had a horrible race last Sunday in Gypsum, Colorado.
It was a tough one.
A sprint enduro,
Yeah.
a moto course and an enduro course. And the enduro course was just, huge ruts, 1 3-mile rut. And I could not handle it. So Tom finally beat me.
Finally got him.
After
man.
4 races, I'm up 3-1.
So I had a race earlier this year, and I found myself. It was a Grand Prix, hour and a half or 2 hours, and I found myself partway through losing focus on like the exact task that was out on hand, and I had to like snap myself back into it. And for me, I then tell myself to look ahead, like look ahead. That's how I get focused back on the course. Are you able to stay locked in for your whole ride for hours on end and not let your mind wander, or do you have something that you have to tell yourself to lock back in?
If it's a very real physical section, for sure you're going to be like, you'll be maxed out, right? And you're going to have to tell yourself, nope, get going. Team's counting on you. Riders counting on you. The other end, for sure that happens. I got to a point though where it was just normal. It was just like, I got a 6-hour ride here, riding from Ensenada to, a third of the peninsula to hand it to my partner down there, and it's like I have no choice, but I just got to go.
Yeah.
But there's sections. It's like, oh my gosh, okay, here comes that 40 miles of whoops, and it's just like there's no other route around it. It's like, and that's one thing we'll get into. It's some pre-running and stuff, but for the most part, you guys are just going to have to like, stick to the course and just go, but yeah, you get to that point and you're like, okay, my back's already firing. It's like,
he's worried about his lower back.
Yeah, for sure.
You mentioned this morning.
Yeah.
I think, Tim was saying, over the next 2 days, we're going to ride over 100 miles a day. And that's going to be our longest days on the bike so far. Yeah. So I'm pretty excited for it.
So that being said, it's like a lot of it won't be the roughest terrain you've ever been over, but that's where that real mental part is going to come in of like, okay, this is like a flat road and we're going really fast, but you don't really know how fast you're going. I want to challenge you guys to kind of look in your peripheral and see how fast the bushes are going by, and you're not going to realize it. Because you're used to like not being in a straight line for a long time. Well, you're going to be going up some roads like up to Mike's Sky Ranch or somewhere, wherever you guys are going. But it's like we're clipping along here because the trees and bushes are going really fast, you know? And you get that, especially when it's not like real rough or bumpy, but it's just pretty smooth. So yeah, you're going to do 100 miles each day, but and you're going to find that you're going to go, wow, I'm kind of fatigued a little bit. So just know that whatever you guys have to experiment and what works for you nutrition wise too, always, have electrolytes, be hydrated, number one. But maybe you're good with caffeine, maybe you're not, just something to kind of like keep you engaged, keep you focused. If it's a long day in the saddle, longer than you're used to, and then you're going to have to remember to work up to that in the next couple of years. It's like you gotta, hey, we're doing a 100-mile ride today. Next week we're gonna do 150 or 200. And you're gonna ride all day long. Yeah.
So. Luckily, Tom's about no pain, no gain. I feel like I can definitely lounge on the couch. If you're saying you want to be staying at home in the middle of the night where you're ski racing. You're like, I'd rather be on the couch. I'm like, yeah, piece of cake for me. But you definitely like love to push it as hard as you can. Yeah,
I do. I love that idea of setting a goal that is gonna be hard and it's gonna hurt and working towards it. It's kind of what spurred this whole thing. I did the Leadville 100 mountain bike race last year. It was really great race, great organization, but kind of got done with it and was like, man, that was cool, but there wasn't enough adrenaline for me. And so then that's when, just like you said, the guy that's sitting there watching Dust to Glory and that is exactly, I mean, you told my story for me. I was sitting there watching it and I'm like, I have to do this, and I told my wife, and I'm like, hey, she was on vacation. I was texting her, and I'm like, this is what I want to do, and she's like, oh, okay, that sounds nice. And then I kept texting her, and she goes,
what is it?
She called me. She goes, you're like a kind of a. She goes, you're not kidding, are you? And I'm like, I'm not. And she goes, okay, well, if you're gonna do it right then. And I'm like, all right. So then that's when then when I got Paul on board, and then we've been diving in.
I say your wife was on board more than I was at first. At first, I was like, hold up, we could die doing this.
Yeah. Just have her watch the part, Dust to Glory, where my wife does the interview. So
I might not. She's on board right now. We'll try to keep her that way.
Copy that.
But that does bring something up for me, because you doing a little bit of quick math, you were still winning the Baja in when you had kids, and I do too. I've got 2 kids, and when I say like some of this keeps me up at night, that's the part that keeps me up at night, is like, can I justify this to myself when I have my family at home, and they are behind it and they do support it, but that's one of the things I have to come to terms with, and we're going to do this in a way that is to mitigate risks as much as we can. But what was that? Was there a change for you before you had kids to after you had kids in racing?
At first, no. Like, I felt like we had kids, and it was probably in my prime. It was in my prime. I was like 30 years old and stuff, and I felt like 28 to 32 is kind of like my prime, like athletic form and focus, and nothing scaring me. I'm going through the motions and doing it. But I did have a pretty big get off. I don't know. I was probably 32-ish, 33, and I kind of like, after that point, I kind of like backed off, I'd say, a little bit, and go, you have a great race partner. You have a great team. You don't need to carry everything. Don't think you have to carry everything and be the guy all the time, And so I gave a lot more respect and responsibility to Steve Hingeveld, my partner. And he started really, going fast and carrying the team and carrying more load, and he did a wonderful job, helped my career for sure. But I want to say something to you guys, just that's going to stick with you the whole time, is that family, wives, kids, life. Remember, your life is more than this race, right? You got great careers, great wives, great lives and stuff with family, but make good decisions. That's what I'm going to tell you. And you're going to remember that the whole time. Just make good decisions, and you're going to cross things at some point during this whole process and going, remember what Johnny said, make good decisions. Is that a good decision? Well, no, that's too risky. I'm not going to do that, So I would just say that really helped my career, and helped the longevity of it.
Yep.
But just, you can say, oh, be smart. But it's all decision making. Life, racing, it's all decision making. So
yeah. Well, the good news is that we say that same thing to our teenage students that go to prom.
Okay.
Prom weekend, make good decisions.
Perfect.
That's the last thing we say to them before they can leave the weekend.
When you go to Baja, just
but now it's
remember.
Be, Johnny said, make good decisions.
Yeah, and I think it's so important to just remember. But the first part of that too is life and family is so much bigger than this race, and keep that top of mind.
Yeah, keep it top of mind, and that's what I mean by don't race this race like you're in a 10 or 20 minute moto at your local track,
True.
It's like,
well, we know we're not going to win, so we're not out to go as fast as possible.
You got a long ways to go. The goal is the finish line.
Yep.
Exactly.
And that doesn't matter how long it takes you, just you get there.
Yeah.
We don't know how long it's going to take us. That's, I think, part of the problem. The unknown factor is like we have no idea how long. If you had a guess from like a rookie standpoint,
I think it probably depends on what the course is that
year.
I
guess that's true, right? Yeah,
exactly. It's not the same course.
That's right. Yeah.
Some sections can be the same sections year after year, but it's a different course and different creativity every year. That's what makes the Baja so flavorful. Flavorful.
Yeah.
So your son Preston is becoming a legend in his own right on a motorcycle now. How has that been to transfer from the guy who is the father out racing to now being the father watching your son? Do you have was this like something you've always had a goal, man? You really wanted him to be on the motorcycle?
No, I mean, we exposed our kids to a multitude of different activities and subjects and stuff. And our parenting practice strategy was to allow their spirit to follow their own passion, right? And let them excel with their God-given gifts and passions. And so it was like, we let them experiment, go play soccer, go do this, and go racing, go whatever you want to do. Preston always came back to racing. It's just like he was going to be a racer no matter what.
Nice.
Paris, she tried a bunch of different things, and then she was actually a pretty good mountain bike racer in high school. And then but academics just took over, and she wanted to excel at that. And that was more important to her. But so being the father of a racer like Preston, it's nerve-wracking, like just because I know the consequences and what can happen. And he's had really bad get-offs already and before. And I mean, it's backs and femurs and stuff like that. And so he knows the risks at a young age. He's already had, some really big ones. But I want, for me, I get more nervous than my wife. My wife's been through it before, but I was like, oh, maybe they'll do something different, but Preston, he just, he has a high mechanical aptitude. He has a high skill on the bike. He has a drive, and so he's going for it. And I just have to trust God and just support him.
That's awesome. I got to tell you, last week, both my kids did their first dirt bike race, and it was I would say it was a race weekend. They raced on Saturday, I raced on Sunday. I had way more fun watching them race. It was just
that's because the course was hard.
The course was hard. Yeah, for sure. But man, it was so cool to watch them. My son is 4, and he's on this little electric bike, and it was so cool. We were at the starting line, and I told him, like, hey, if you want to let the other kids go first, and then you can go after them, you can do that. But if you want to take off when they wave the green flag, you can do that too. Whatever you're feeling. And then I backed away from him, and I saw him just like lean over, and the elbows come up, and I'm like, oh, he's going. He's gonna go, and he did. And he had a good time. And my daughter, like Paul said, the course was hard. And she came through. It was a 3-test race, and she came through after the second one and stopped at the van and got something to drink, and she broke down. She was crying, and she said, Dad, I must have fallen down 87 times. That's what she told me. And I was like, okay, well, why don't you just slow down and just focus on not trying to crash. And I didn't know if she was going to get back up and get on the bike again. And she never second guessed it. She was going to get back up. She was going to finish the race. I was really proud, and it was a cool moment. So I think it's been a really cool thing for myself to see the whole family experience it.
Yeah. It's always been a great family outlet for us. First, me growing up in it, and then seeing our kids grow up in it and stuff, and that's been great. And then, but yeah, and you're a lot like me. I'm always like, hey, be careful, be safe, do what you can. And he's just like, rah,
He was. It was cool.
And Paris was, if she continued racing, she would have been really hardcore too, because she was very aggressive on the bicycle. So, but it's fun. It's scary. It's all above. It's life.
So,
Good.
yeah. So we, speaking of like, how do we get ready? You said, hey, pre-races before you get to the Baja. So, we've been racing our local series, been having a great time. But we do need to get into some desert racing. And so, we have signed up. We're officially registered. We're going to race the California 300 as our first desert race.
He's laughing. He's covering his eyes.
Yeah. So
it's in 4 months.
First of all, I know your son has won the California 300 2 times in a row, which is super impressive. Just in general, what can you tell us about this race?
Well, we'll start with the area. Barstow, California, and Stoddard Valley is known to be rugged, rocky, tough, like the Rocky Mountain trails are tough and stuff like that too. But this has some speed elements, some whoops, some ditches, and then you get a lot of single track too. And this year it's going to be, this year is going to be great because it's going to be separated from the car course, where the last couple years we kind of used part of the car course and then we have some good bike sections and then back on this year, they wanted to kind of compact the schedule a little bit more. And so they went to a kind of a system just like they do at the Mint 400, where they run the bikes simultaneously to the four-wheel vehicles. And the only real way to do that in these type of areas is to make separate courses, which is safer overall, because you don't have fast four-wheel traffic coming up on slower bikes and stuff like that. And those, that's always been in off-road racing, and it's, and so at the California 300 this year, it'll be a pretty rugged race to get your feet wet, just because it's going to be a lot of rocks. There's going to be quite a few rocks, just because Barstow, the nature of it is some of it's rocky. But I think you'll get a good input of like speed sensation, what's coming at you. So this fast, you're going 50, 60 miles an hour across the desert, and here's a drainage, here's a ditch, or something like that. And then it's going to slow down the tempo, and then you're going to have some fun stuff, maybe more what you're used to, like in a hare scramble or something. And you'll have some really good sand washes. And we picked up, like, I've been working on the course for these guys, and it's really cool because we found some stuff that's not beat up, like it's a lot of it's some of it's side by side width, and it's just flowing washes, and it's enough to keep you on your toes, because like I said, there's rocks everywhere there, but it's real fun because it's not just all whooped out and stuff. And then you're going to have some goat trail stuff where it's going to just slow the tempo down, and then it'll get on the other side of that, you get a little break, and be shift some gears and stuff, and then it's going to tighten down a little bit. So I think for an off-road race, you're going to have a big variety for an off-road race at California 300. It's a good time of year. October is beautiful in the California desert. So I think you guys will have fun, and I think it'll be a great experience, a more controlled, environment, having a 40 or 50 mile lap that you'll be able to, you can have I think we'll have an alternate pit also, so you can choose where, if you want to switch riders at any of those. But, it's going to be, I think that the first bike, like a Preston level guy's probably going to complete it in about 55 minutes to an hour it'll take. So,
the whole race?
No, just one
I
lap.
thought you meant this.
I'm doing a little math, and I'm like,
just one lap.
Okay,
We're not math teachers.
because in Barstow it's a lap race, right? It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. There's not a big enough area to do like a one circular 300-mile lap.
Right.
Sure.
Okay.
So it'll be. But the good thing about that, especially for you guys and anybody that wants to come and try a desert race is that it's more controlled, because it's like, okay, you're never more than 10 miles from the pit, because
which is nice.
You're doing a lot of turns and different things, and so. But it'll be a blast. You guys are going to have a good time. We have uphills, downhills. A lot has a lot of contours. Like, you go to the Mint 400 and it's faster, a little whoopier. So the pace is higher. Here it's going to be a little more technical and probably a little more of what you're used to, But you'll get those really good sections that are like, okay, this is Baja.
Was there a race we should have started on before this one? Because you covered your eyes like,
It might be too late.
No, there's also local desert racing like District 37, or in Nevada there's Moran racing, and which is like one of the series that we follow is the AMA National Hare and Hound Series, and those are like 80 to 100 mile races. It's generally they're a little tighter, more technical than a score race or a unlimited race. And so, but you still are going through the desert and you're getting terrain reading, right? There's no pre-running or anything, so you're following the course markers and arrows and stuff. But Hare and Hound racing, AMA District 37 is Southern California desert racing. They race all the time. They'll have a summer hiatus, but there's one of those almost every weekend. You can do in Lucerne Valley or Ridgecrest, California. Those are really good, like, starter races. And in my generation, most of the successful Baja racers came through District 37, AMA District 37. Okay. It's like we used to race every weekend against each other in desert racing in these 80 to 100 mile races, and that elevated the level. And we had everybody from the Larry Rosslers, the Danny Hamills, and the Scott Hardens, and the Bruce Ogilvies and Chuck Millers, and all the guys that were winning races in Baja. They all came from District 37, and South Vegas and stuff like that. And so, so District 37 is an option. Moran is kind of similar, but it's Nevada based, and then like you step up, or to a longer race like the 300 or something like that. And, there's multiple different off-road races like that. But the 300 I think is fun because it's a great atmosphere in Barstow. The Martellis do a great job of promoting, and the course, the guys setting up the course for the bikes is awesome too.
Nice. Now I think we have to move down here. I did see San Clemente High School. We passed by. It looks very nice.
It does. That's a great
beautiful
football
campus.
Field. Yeah.
So it sounds like we need to come down here.
Well, I just actually got hired on as an alpine ski coach.
I did hear that.
Yeah, I can't leave quite yet. I don't think there's much alpine ski racing.
They do have a slope behind the school there.
There you go.
We used to have to run up in PE, but
hill sprints. I love it. At the California 300, this is going to show how much we really don't know about what we're getting into. Is there a pre-running day? Can we pre-run?
Yeah.
Do we know the course before we go?
Yeah, that's one special thing that not always happens in the States is pre-running. If you go to Vegas to Reno or the Mint 400 or some other races, there's a lot of more sensitivity groups and the terrain. The good thing about Barstow is the terrain doesn't really break down because it's pretty hard pack and stuff. And so they encourage pre-running. So you can go there and you get to practice, and you can do as many laps as you want from probably Tuesday to Saturday.
Nice.
So you can go and ride it and figure out, who wants to start, who wants to finish, they'll ride half a lap, you ride half a lap, whatever you want to do.
And I was gonna ask about that. What would you recommend if it's just two of us? Would you set it up would we go every other lap? Should one of us, hey, you knock out 150 miles and I'll knock out 150 miles?
I think this course has enough to where if you do one lap at a time, you'll be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's going to take you over an hour to do a lap, and it'll be good to get a breather, check out the bike real quick and let your partner get on. And because you're going to do 6 laps or so. So if each guy gets 3 laps in,
That's awesome.
you get great experience. And like I said, a much more controlled environment where, like, when you go to Baja to race, it's not really controlled environment. It's open, At least here, it's like the desert, at least in Barstow, they have a federal land closure for the race. So nobody's supposed to be out there except in spectator areas and stuff. But in Mexico, it's wide open. You come around the corner and the rancher's going to his ranch, So it's an unknown.
Yep. And the just the logistics of Baja is not really something we've even started to talk about yet.
It's in the back of our heads.
But yeah, we've started to think about it, and I'm not even sure where we start. We have been invited to go down and pre-run with some folks who are going to go down, and I think that's going to have to be our path, is go down there while somebody else is racing it and get some experience and pre-run and help pit for somebody else, and just absorb as much as we can. That's
a very smart thing to do. And I think first things first is you're going to get to go in the next couple days or so with Tim Morton's Baja Bound Moto Group. And that's going to be really important because you'll get your eyes open to what the course looks like and what the vibe in Mexico is all about. And I know you've been there before, but being able to ride down there and get familiar with some of these things and absorb all that, that's going to be really important. And then that way, if you decide to go through like a Morton or somebody like that to help you with your logistics down there and pitting or whatever, that's key, because once you ride the course, say the course map comes out, you kind of look, you go, okay, you're going to ride here, I'm going to ride here, and you go check it out and you figure out where your pits are going to be and stuff. That you start working on all those logistics when the course comes out, so you can have a good plan. But all that will come to the surface. And if you're in good hands, like with Morto, then it'll just take a lot of pressure off you.
Yeah. So as we're looking forward to October in the California 300, and we're not to the point where we're gonna have somebody else build a bike for us for this one, what are some of the most common bike failures? I mean, you've been building bikes for forever, and what are some of those common failures? Like, hey, don't overlook this.
I think the one thing you got to think about is what manufacturers do to the bikes in the beginning. What makes that bike acceptable to go in the showroom, and its durability and dependability. I could really only speak for Honda because I've been working with Honda for over 30 years, and I'm in the production development projects with the new CRFs and stuff. So I know what goes into it. I know what the durability goes into it. So what I'm getting at is be careful of the parts you put on the bike just because they look pretty. There's, if you look at my bike, you can see some pretty parts, but they're on there for function, So what I always say, and I've always gone through, is stock is best. There's a lot of work to get the bike to that point, and then you kind of tailor it from there. So you don't need to have all the, most beautiful, pretty stuff, but you need stuff that's dependable and helps with your riding. And it's like, you don't need to build some ground pounding engine, because I know stock, like the bike's good enough for me, So just be careful on that. I think if you're looking at mechanically what to do is like flats. Everybody runs mooses nowadays, and the moose product, no matter where you go to, is pretty good through all the different brands. So we run Pirelli mooses. That's our sponsor, and they have a really good product. So, but with that said, is like flats. You're going to go to Barstow, is rocky.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the speeds in desert racing are higher than what you would incur generally like in the Rocky Mountains, right? Of course. So you're going to get pinch flats or whatever. So run a good strong tire and a moose tube.
Yep.
You know, that's really important. Skid plates are important. I'd shy away from any metal skid plates. Either go with I recommend plastic because of sound. You get less vibration, and you know, and the handling of the motorcycle works best with that. You know, there's carbon plates that are strong. They'll make a little more noise, but I say don't use like alloy.
Right. Should we? So we're currently on 350s. When should we make a jump to we assume a 450 to prepare? Do you think we should do it sooner than later? I mean, with two years to go, like should we?
You know, a 350 for now is fine, you know, because that's what you're used to. But probably in the near future, you need, you know, get a couple 450s and just start riding them. Unless you're going to race a 350 down there, you know, but that's up to you, you know. Of course, I'm going to recommend ride a 450X because it's durable, dependable, you know, they're the tried and true. And that's what I know, and that's what's been winning all the races down there. So
I think that's what we're going to be riding for the next couple of days. So it's actually going to be really cool to get out on one and feel what that's going to be like.
And I'm pushing a Honda too. My first bike was a Honda CRF Dual Sport.
Yeah.
So sold it to another buddy. But I was telling him yesterday, I'm like, I'll go back to a Honda.
I think you'll find that the stability in the desert is pretty superior.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, that's gonna be good to get on that. Okay, sorry, just checking the time. Okay, when we were talking about race nutrition, you hit on this earlier. For the California, my plan as of right now would be when I'm actually out riding, just taking in calories through liquid. I like a high carb mix. That seems to work pretty well for me. My stomach can handle it if I practice enough beforehand. In a race that's just a lap race like that, you're not eating anything on the bike.
No, you just wait till you get off.
Okay.
You know, I mean, we're talking 40 to 50 mile loop, and let's say it takes you an hour and a half to get around that. It's like you can survive an hour and a half.
I sure hope so.
And then you're going to have an hour and a half of rest.
Yep.
You know, so don't worry about eating anything. You know, now if you're going to do a stint in Baja to where just the way the logistics of the course works out, where you're going to have to be on the bike for a long time, then you might want to think about, well, you know, at this mileage, I want to eat a bar, or I want a goo or something that's going to give you some more calories to keep your focus.
Yep.
You know, I think you're right on with having a carb mix and hydration and stuff, electrolytes and stuff. I think that's spot on. You know that from mountain bike racing and stuff. So
I was going to say it's pretty similar to mountain bike racing, sounds like. Yeah,
similar stuff,
much,
right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I recommend Rhino Power. That's what I've been using for a long time now, and their supplements work really well. You probably have something that you like. So just whatever. I'd say you have to use what works for you.
Yeah.
But
Gotcha.
and don't experiment in the race.
Yeah, and that's what I found, like in with some of the longer stuff that I've done, is you got to get used to it. Your stomach has to get used to it. And,
Yeah.
If you don't try anything new, even in Leadville, I didn't even use the pits because I didn't want to roll in there and see what they had.
Yeah.
So I had it all. I had a wonderful pit crew. My family.
I was going to say, and they're going to be a pit crew for the Baja, right? Isn't your family's coming down to?
Yeah, I mean, I think
California
that's the plan. I think they're planning on coming. I think they're looking forward to it. So, okay, I do have a question. I love the fact that in California it's going to be two separate courses, because when we're looking at Baja, I got to tell you, one of the things that scares the living daylights out of me is the idea of these 1,000 horsepower trophy trucks coming up behind you. Did you ever even get caught by one? Do they? Never.
Never. Because
We're talking to the wrong guy about this.
I mean, in my career, we usually beat the trucks.
Sure.
On adjusted time. So we never saw them. If we started 4 or 5 hours ahead of them, we finished 4 or 5 hours ahead of them. But that's not the norm. I mean, that's only for a few vehicles or for a couple bikes that were out front because everybody else gets caught, And nowadays, the trucks have advanced so much that they're just, they're coming.
Yep.
And so, the important thing is to educate yourself, and you'll get this pre-running too when you go down there because for sure a pre-runner is going to come up behind you and you'll feel it.
The ground's going to be shaking and everything.
How come I can feel the ground when I'm on rubber tires? But yeah, this is really important. I mean, this is one of the most important things for you guys as rookies going into this type of racing is that, when you you have to be aware of where you're at. It's like, okay, I've gone 200 miles. It's taken me this long. The trucks started this, far back. Okay, they could be coming in the next 50 miles or something like this, right? So be aware of your time. Say, okay, we crashed. We had an hour downtime fixing the bike. Where are the trucks? And so even if you had, one of your kids or somebody's techie watching the scoring or something could say, hey, the trucks are all ready at 150. We're only at 160 right now,
Mm-hmm.
So try to be aware as much as you can. When you get caught, easier said than done. You have to acknowledge they're there. And it's super difficult nowadays, especially because the course is so gnarly, and a lot of time it's a double rut that's deep, And so it's like for you to get off the course, if you know the truck is there, and you to get off the course, it could be treacherous, like just to get over that berm, and then what's on the other side of the berm, And sometimes it's pretty bushy and a lot of vegetation, and and even if it's not, it's still tricky sometimes to get out of the rut. And so as soon as possible, they're there. As soon as possible, acknowledge them. They're anxious because they're got, 4 or 5 trucks maybe stacked up behind them, and so you have to get off this side of the course as soon as possible. Whether it's, I'd recommend the right side. Maybe it's not possible. Maybe the left's the only way. But I recommend the right side because these guys are going to try to pass you,
Makes sense. Yep.
So the last thing you want to do is get ran over. But so you have to acknowledge them. Try to get off as soon as you can. Do not go back on the course until it is absolutely clear. Because these guys will run. They'll be stacked up 4 or 5 in the dust, and they're reading their GPS. And they maybe could see the guy's amber light on the back of the truck, and they're just going by braille.
Yep.
And so if you try to pull back out after you get past, you might be just another tree limb ran over. So it's just
they're not even gonna notice yet.
Yeah. Doesn't every bike now and have like a warning, like when what do they call those things?
They do. So there's I forget what they call them in score.
When the truck comes up
the
upon
Stella.
you,
The Stella.
your light goes off in front, and your
yeah.
handlebars.
So they have an alert where their co-driver can send the alert. It goes to your bar. It signals you with flashing light or even a siren.
Yeah.
I'm not 100%
Hopefully both.
sure.
I want both.
And in that way, okay, it's time
Get
to
off.
get
ASAP.
off.
Yeah.
And you wait and make sure that it's clear.
Okay.
If you can't see, be very, very cautious re-entering the course.
Yep.
I mean, this is like probably the most important information you're going to need, for a long race course like the 1,000,
Yeah. So make good decisions.
Yeah,
I got it.
It all comes back down to that.
He's listening.
Yep. Yeah.
My gosh. Do we want to? Well, yeah. So we. I can't wait to see all this in the flesh tomorrow.
Oh my
with Tim Mordo. Mordo sounds like
I call him Mordo.
like a villain almost. Mordo. And we're super excited. What do you think we should focus on with Tim taking us down in terms of just absorb it all? Same thing, just take it all in.
Yeah, I think listen, absorb it, because there's going to be a a lot of information, but try to keep it simple. But he does a fantastic job of, articulating information. And so it's just one step at a time. I mean, you're going to be looking around once you cross the border and go, oh my gosh, I need to bring my kids here so they can see what most of the world's like.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
That's true.
So, but then you get out to where you're actually going to ride and, it'll be fun, but just pay attention because there's barbed wire fences and the roads aren't closed. The dirt roads aren't closed, and there's livestock and things like this. So a lot of the times the cattle guards are a little beat up, and since it's just after the 500, you might be on some of that course, and so just pay attention.
Yeah, I was more worried about Tim maybe just trying to break us down, like Mr. Miyagi style, just really make sure, like in a good way though. Like, I appreciate that a lot, actually.
No, for sure the initiation trip he won't do that.
The second trip maybe.
Yeah.
The next one.
He has a really good way of his disposition and stuff of introducing it is really well.
Perfect. Well, thanks for introducing us to him.
Yeah, really appreciate that.
Yeah, we're super excited for about 12 hours from now. We're gonna be waking up and meeting him in Escondido.
Awesome,
right? So
yeah. Kind of wrapping up here. I saw that you and Cameron Steele have you're hosting the annual Baja Beach Bash coming up next month, July, right?
July.
Tell us a little bit more about that, and like why is this such an important event to you?
Yeah. So the Baja Beach Bash was created about 17 years ago, because this is the 17th annual. Myself, Cameron, and Tim Morton got together and said, we need to start more of a introductory, introduce people to Baja, show them it's okay to come down, it's safe. And at that point in time, there was there's some bad rap going around. And so we just kind of not mistakenly, but we stopped by the orphanage and school, which Cameron and his family had supported for a long time. And Cameron's dad had raced with Bill Lawrence, who was the founder of the orphanage and school way back when. And so we stopped by and we're like, okay, everybody just give a donation, and so we just pulled cash out of our pockets. But that became the catalyst of the whole reason to do the ride. And it was, it's to introduce people to Baja, but there was a higher cause, a bigger cause, that was people in need. And so we really took that to heart and felt like it was our mission, and we made it our mission. And so every year we've tried to increase our giving. And I think at our very height might have been a couple years ago, I think we donated over $400,000 in one shot.
That's incredible.
That's amazing.
And Cameron has such a big heart, but he also has a great way of rallying people to, and challenging them. So, he has a really fun character, special character and stuff. And so that encouraged all of us, to knock on doors and have people come down for a good cause, because Rancho Santa Marta is the school and orphanage that we support. And Rod and Tina are the directors now. That's Bill and Kay Lawrence's daughter and son-in-law. And it's become one of the most desired schools to go to. And there's a waiting list in Mexico to actually go to the school. So, but kind of the premises or one of the foundations of it was that there was, special needs kids that, Bill and Kay taught the kids practical skills so that they can contribute to society in a fundamental way, where normally these kids would just be, swept out the side and just, homeless and live in the dirt and whatever. And now they, they've built this thing to an accredited school in Mexico. And I think they have over 150 to 200 kids that, get bussed in every day to this place. And there's still I might have my numbers wrong, but there's 20 to 30 that actually live there full time.
That's cool.
and they have some houses also that cater to some of the special needs that have, nowhere to go, and they basically live there in all their life, But in our 17 years, it's been awesome to see the kids progress through school and go to college and get a degree, and, they're living life beautifully. And so, this is what Christ has called us to focus on. And so that's what we've made our mission every year, to raise funds for them and hopefully better the lives of some people that are more unfortunate than us.
That's super cool. So if we have folks who are listening who want to take part in the ride and want to come down and join yourself and Cameron on this, how could they get in on that? Yeah,
so you can go to bajabeachbash.com. You could sign up. There's a link to Rancho Santa Marta to donate right there. If you wanted to donate, you can call them, you can talk to them. So just go to that website, bajabeachbash.com, and get signed up. And unique to some of the other rides, like we do Rip to Cabo and some other unique rides during the year, this one is unique because we open it to pretty much anyone, and we usually cap it around 50 riders. So it's a big haul. It's, your fee includes all your hotels, all your food, all your gas while you're there. Of course, if you want beers or something, that's on you. But it's a fun atmosphere. We ride some beaches. It's July, so it's hot. So nobody wants to go ride in the desert in July, except for crazy people like us that are training for the Dakar Rally. But you come down, we get to ride down the coast. We go on a bunch of single track trails, and we share the trails with some of the locals down by El Rosario and Mama Espinosa's family have built, the Hales. And it's a great time. It's a great time to introduce to Baja in a lighthearted way. And you get 3 full days of riding, and and we get to support a great cause. So go sign up, go donate, and we'll see you down there.
Yeah, we'll be there. I'm not sure when, but maybe this year. Love the cause. I'm gonna go down, and we, especially as educators, I'm like fully support that 100%.
Yeah, you love it,
man. Taking both of our kind of our life passions and putting them together into one trip sounds about perfect. Obviously we are big as educators. We fully believe in the power of school and giving everybody a chance, and then as we're diving into this dirt bike life, I can't think of a better way to support a great cause. So that's really cool that you guys have that going.
Yeah.
Well, Johnny, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and your life to sit down with a couple of amateurs who, we're in awe of what you've been able to do on a motorcycle, and the fact that you were willing to sit down with us is really amazing, and it means the world to us. So, hopefully we will see you at some of these races.
Yeah, for sure. And I see us being in contact and whatever, and you guys can just text me, email me, whatever, and if you have any questions, and but I'm sure Tim will drive you in the right direction as well. So
hopefully,
I'm excited to see the finish line when you guys decide to race it. So that'll be fun to see that and to know where we started, and have you guys get that experience and do it safely. So
make good decisions.
That's it.
All right, everybody.
Thank you, Johnny.
Yeah, thank you, Johnny, and
guys.
Everybody out there. Make good decisions.
We'll see you on the next ride.
All right. See you guys. Thank you.